Welcome to the deep dive. If you thought decentralized finance, or DeFi, was maybe
Yeah.
a thing of the past, definitely think again.
Yeah, it certainly had its moment of doubt, didn't it?
It really did. For a while there, lots of skeptics. But DeFi is back with a serious bang in 2024.
Absolutely.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into this remarkable resurgence.
hmm
Our mission is basically to uncover the major shifts, the incredible tech breakthroughs, and really what all this means for the future of our financial world.
And we're drawing on all those great expert analyses and market reports you shared with us.
Exactly. So let's get right into it. So yeah, many of us remember the, let's say, skepticism around DeFi after 2022, 2023.
Oh, yeah.
We saw those major events like the dramatic collapse of Luna, which, certainly made a lot of users wary. Enthusiasm definitely dampened.
It felt like a real setback, a major blow to confidence.
For sure.
It absolutely did. But, what we're seeing in 2024 is genuinely a remarkable comeback. And the core drivers here, they aren't just market hype this time. We're talking fundamental shifts.
Like what specifically?
Well, things like increasing regulatory clarity, which helps a lot, and also some groundbreaking technological innovations that are, actually addressing real-world financial needs.
So it's more mature this time.
Exactly. This isn't just a recovery in numbers. It really signals a fundamental maturation of the whole DeFi market. And you can really see this maturation reflected in the key metrics. The total value locked, or TVL, in DeFi protocols. It's now exceeding $100 billion.
Wow, okay. That's significant.
It really is. It represents a major recovery, puts us at about 80% of the all-time high from back in late 2021. It indicates, a strong return of investor confidence.
Confidence based on more than just speculation, presumably?
Precisely. It suggests investors are looking beyond the hype, looking at the underlying utility, the revenue generation. That differentiates this cycle from some previous, more volatile periods.
Gotcha.
And look at stablecoins, too. The market cap there has rebounded to $168 billion.
It's just huge.
It's over 90% of its 2022 highs. That suggests there's ongoing strong demand for these decentralized dollar-pegged assets.
Right. And trading. Is activity back?
Definitely. Daily DeFi trading volumes have been averaging around $6.9 billion since March 2024.
Okay.
That's about 70% of the peak volumes we saw back in November 2021. So it shows really robust user engagement across the board. People are actively using these platforms.
That's powerful stuff. And it's not just the metrics, right? The whole narrative seems to be shifting, too. I saw Bernstein, for example, talking about a big bang DeFi recovery, saying the investor narrative is truly coming back.
Yeah, they're quite bullish on it.
And they make this really interesting point. Like, this cycle, the yield is real. What exactly does that mean? Why is it so different from what we saw, before?
That's a really crucial distinction. In the previous cycle, a lot of the talk about, high yields in DeFi,
Right.
it was often tied to unsustainable token emissions.
Right. Basically just printing new tokens to pay out returns.
Exactly. Which, as we saw, eventually collapsed. Luna is the most prominent, painful example.
Yeah.
Bernstein's analysis points out that now 6 out of the top 10 revenue-generating protocols are actually DeFi applications.
Okay. Who are we talking about?
Major players: Uniswap, Aave, Maker, GMX, Synthetics, Sushi.
The big names.
The big names, yeah. And this cycle, the yield is considered real because it's generated from actual economic activity within the protocols.
So from fees, like lending fees, trading fees?
Precisely. Lending, trading, other services. It's not just new money flooding in to pay off the old money.
Right.
It's based on usage. And just look at Uniswap, for instance. It's the largest decentralized spot exchange, right? At its current run rate, estimates suggest it could see annualized revenues crossing $1 billion.
1 billion. Wow.
Yeah. And its UNI token, which reflects the total value of its circulating supply, it's now worth around $9.3 billion floating market cap.
That definitely signals genuine value creation, driven by real use. Okay, so if DeFi is truly back and it's operating with this new, more sustainable playbook, what does the landscape actually look like now for someone wanting to engage? Is it still mostly an Ethereum thing?
Not at all, actually. That's one of the big changes. The DeFi landscape has become significantly more diverse. It's very multi-chain now.
Okay.
I mean, yes, Ethereum still holds the majority of the total value locked across all the crypto networks, but its market share, it's actually dropped quite a bit.
Really? From what?
Well, back during the original DeFi summer in 2020, it was over 95%. Now it's hovering around 62%.
So where did that value go?
A substantial portion has shifted. It's distributed across rival Layer 1 blockchains,
Nice.
like BNB Chain, Solana, Tron, or those foundational highways for transactions where everything happens directly on the chain.
Okay.
And we're also seeing a lot of activity on various Layer 2 networks. These are built on top of Ethereum, like express lanes almost.
To make things faster and cheaper.
Exactly. They process transactions off the main highway, essentially. Makes a big difference for usability.
Right.
And what's really, I think, groundbreaking is the expansion onto Bitcoin-based applications.
On Bitcoin, how does that work?
Through new token standards, things like ordinals and runes, it means even Bitcoin, which was traditionally just seen as, digital gold, a store of value.
Yeah.
It's now becoming a platform for more diverse applications. You can have NFTs, new types of tokens directly on the Bitcoin network now. It opens up a lot.
Huh. That sounds like a much more mature, robust ecosystem overall. So this evolution you're describing, people often call it DeFi 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean for someone actually using these platforms? What's the tangible difference they feel?
Yeah, DeFi 2.0, it represents quite a significant leap forward, I'd say. It's directly addressing some of the pain points from that earlier phase.
Like what?
It's really all about sustainability first off. Then improved scalability, handling more users, more transactions. Enhanced security is huge.
Makes sense after some of the hacks and collapses.
Absolutely. And crucially, a much better user experience. We're talking intuitive, user-friendly interfaces.
Yeah.
The explicit goal here is to attract mainstream users, not just the crypto natives.
So easier to use,
It's
basically.
much easier. And innovations like those Layer 2 solutions we mentioned and cross-chain interoperability, they're making these platforms more accessible and much more efficient.
Okay.
Plus, you have stronger governance models now where token holders actually get a real say in things. And more robust smart contract designs, too. It all contributes to a more reliable, more mature ecosystem.
So less like the Wild West?
Less like the Wild West, yeah. More like a developing financial town. Still a frontier? Maybe. But with more structure.
Okay, that really brings home how much DeFi is evolving. But, to really understand this comeback, we need to sort of peel back the layers a bit.
Sure.
Let's look at the specific tech breakthroughs that are powering it. What are some of the really impactful innovations we're seeing right now?
Okay, yeah, there are quite a few, and they're genuinely reshaping the landscape. One of the most significant, I think, is the explosive growth of liquid restaking tokens, LRTs.
Liquid restaking tokens. Okay, what are those?
Well, the total value locked in LRTs has just ballooned. It went from about $264 million at the start of 2024
Okay.
to a staggering $13.8 billion by mid-2024.
Whoa, that's incredible growth. But how does it work?
So imagine you've put your crypto, say Ether, into staking like a long-term savings account to help secure the network and earn yield.
Right.
With LRTs, you get a kind of digital receipt for that staked Ether. But this receipt, this liquid staking token, or LST, isn't just proof you staked something. It's liquid. You can use it.
Use it how? While the original Ether is still staked.
Exactly. That's the key. The LST can then be restaked in other protocols, maybe used as collateral for a loan, or deployed to earn additional yield elsewhere in DeFi, all while your original Ether keeps earning its staking rewards.
Ah, so it's making your capital work in multiple places at once, increasing efficiency.
Precisely. That's capital efficiency.
Yeah.
It really unlocks liquidity. Some big names here are Eigenlayer, EtherFi, Lido. They're leading this charge.
Okay, so getting more mileage out of your staked assets, that sounds like a really clever way to boost efficiency. What else is driving this new wave?
Well, building on that idea of engagement, we're seeing a much greater emphasis on incentivization. Things like point systems and airdrops.
Airdrops are still a big thing, though.
Oh, yeah. These tokenized rewards are playing a really crucial role in boosting user participation and, importantly, liquidity.
How so?
Well, they often serve as a clever marketing strategy, Spread awareness, get people using the platform, and reward the loyal users. Platforms like Blur, Eigenlayer again, Athena, they've used this effectively.
Right.
But what's potentially really transformative here is that protocols like Uniswap are exploring actual fee-sharing mechanisms.
Sharing the trading fees with token holders.
Exactly. If that goes through, it could fundamentally change DeFi tokens from being purely speculative assets.
That's just something that generates real income.
Precisely. Productive financial instruments. That could attract a whole new class of investors looking for yield based on platform usage, not just price appreciation.
Interesting. Okay, what else?
Another critical area, and this ties back to that multi-chain future we discussed, is cross-chain solutions and Layer 2 scaling.
making different blockchains talk to each other.
Yeah, there's a huge and growing need for interoperability, allowing these different networks to communicate seamlessly.
Okay.
So cross-chain bridges and interoperability protocols. Polkadot is a well-known example working on this. They let you transfer assets and interact between various DeFi platforms on different chains.
Which improves liquidity and just makes it easier for users,
It
right?
absolutely enhances liquidity pools,
Yeah.
improves the overall user experience dramatically, and these solutions go hand in hand with those layer 2 scaling solutions.
Right, the ones tackling Ethereum's speed and cost issues.
Exactly. They increase transaction throughput, reduce those sometimes painful gas fees, often by processing transactions off the main chain. It just makes DeFi far more accessible for everyday people.
Any examples there?
Well, projects like Equilibrium and Avalanche are doing interesting things, leveraging this kind of cross-chain functionality.
So we're making it easier and cheaper to move value around and actually use these platforms. That definitely sounds like a path towards broader adoption. What about bringing, traditional assets into this digital world? Is that happening?
Oh, absolutely. The tokenization of real-world assets, RWAs, is gaining really significant traction.
So tokenizing things like what?
Real estate? Exactly. Real estate, commodities like gold, even traditional securities like bonds or stocks. These are being converted into digital tokens.
Okay.
And then they can be integrated into DeFi protocols, traded on blockchain networks, used as collateral.
Wow.
It unlocks entirely new opportunities, right? Provides much broader access for both retail and institutional investors. And the potential here is huge, potentially bringing trillions of dollars of real-world liquidity into DeFi.
Trillions. That's a bold claim. Is anyone actually doing this at scale yet?
Well, Maker DAO is a really powerful example. They back their stablecoin, DAI. As of June 2024, almost 40% of DAI supply, that's nearly $2 billion, was backed by RWA collateral.
Almost $2 billion backed by real-world stuff? Okay.
Yeah, it's genuinely bridging that gap between the digital and physical asset worlds. And, as user experience becomes more and more key, we're seeing something called intent-based architecture really advancing.
Intent-based, what does that mean?
It simplifies user interactions dramatically. So instead of you having to manually set every single parameter for a transaction like, slippage tolerance, gas fees, which specific liquidity pool to use.
Which can be really complex and intimidating.
Really. Instead, you simply state what you want the outcome to be. I want to swap this token for that token and get the best possible price.
And the system figures out how.
Exactly. The protocol, or maybe an intermediary service, figures out the most efficient way to execute your intent. It leads to a much smoother experience, fewer failed transactions. Platforms like UniswapX and Aperture Finance are pioneering this.
Okay, that sounds like a huge step towards making DeFi less scary for normal people.
It really is, lowering the barrier to entry.
And how are these platforms actually making decisions as they grow and evolve? Who's in charge?
Well, that's where decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, come in.
Right, DAOs.
They're increasingly popular as the governance model in DeFi. The idea is they grant token holders voting rights on proposals, fostering true community ownership and control.
So the users get a say.
The users, the token holders, yeah. It enables more community-driven decision-making, which promotes transparency and, the core principle of decentralization. Uniswap DAO and Maker DAO are, again, great examples of this model working in practice. And finally, perhaps most importantly, given the past incidents, there's a heightened priority on enhanced security measures in 2024.
That seems essential.
Absolutely critical. We're talking rigorous auditing processes becoming standard practice, advanced security protocols being implemented, robust security frameworks, decentralized identity solutions to verify users without central authorities, even decentralized insurance protocols to cover potential losses.
Insurance for DeFi. Interesting.
Yeah, it's developing. This renewed, intense focus on security is absolutely crucial for building trust. And, very importantly, for attracting more institutional investors who demand, quite rightly, a much higher level of assurance.
It really sounds like a whole ecosystem of innovation working together, not just one or two things.
That's exactly right. LRTs, RWAs, Layer 2s, better UX, stronger governance, tighter security. It all interconnects.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground on the tech side. So zooming out again, what does all this mean for the big picture? How is DeFi really fitting into the larger financial ecosystem now?
Well, I think we're definitely seeing growing institutional interest, which is fueling accelerating mainstream adoption.
Institutions are really getting involved.
Yes. In 2024, we anticipate and are already seeing more individuals and financial institutions exploring DeFi products seriously. Some major players have already launched tokenized funds on Ethereum, for example.
Why now? What's attracting them?
They're recognizing DeFi's potential for, well, potentially higher yields compared to traditional markets, but also the unprecedented transparency blockchain offers and the efficiencies that these automated protocols can bring, things traditional systems can't always match. And related to that, there's also increasing integration with traditional finance, or TradFi as it's often called.
So not just replacing it, but working with it.
Exactly. Financial institutions are actively exploring hybrid products that leverage the strengths of both systems. This could lead to genuinely collaborative efforts.
For what kind of applications?
Think about things like seamless cross-border transactions, making them faster and cheaper, or more efficient asset transfers. There's huge potential for exponential growth through that kind of synergy, rather than just pure competition.
That's a really fascinating development. But it surely can't be all smooth sailing, right? It's not without its hurdles.
Well, no, definitely not, no.
Which brings up, the important question. What's actually being done about regulation and the risks involved? Especially as more mainstream players get involved.
It's a critical point and a complex one. The rapid growth of crypto and DeFi, it has certainly created several significant challenges that governments worldwide are, well, actively grappling with.
Like what kind of challenges?
Well, there are legitimate concerns over illicit activities,
Mm-hmm.
things like ransomware payments used by drug cartels, money laundering.
Yeah, you hear about that?
And it's not unfounded. There was that North Korean hacking group that stole over $1 billion in crypto back in 2022. So security and illicit finance are major focuses.
Okay. What else?
There are also the environmental concerns, mainly around Bitcoin mining.
The energy usage.
Yeah, its proof of work model is still an enormously energy-intensive process. Consumes more electricity than many entire countries. Though it's important to note, Ethereum made that big shift to proof of stake, which dramatically reduced its energy consumption. So there's divergence within the space.
Right. And what about just the financial risks? Volatility, fraud?
Absolutely. The inherent volatility is one thing, but the previous lack of, let's say, comprehensive regulation raised serious concerns about fraud, tax evasion, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and the potential impact on broader financial stability.
Like the FTX collapse.
Exactly. The collapse of firms like FTX in 2022, which resulted in tens of billions in investor losses, that vividly highlighted these risks and really spurred calls for more oversight. So in response, governments have adopted pretty varied approaches globally. It's definitely not uniform.
How does it look in the U.S., for instance?
In the United States, policymakers are actively, trying to craft rules. The SEC, for example, took that significant step of approving the first spot Bitcoin ETFs in January 2024.
Which was a big deal.
Huge deal. However, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, he's consistently described the sector as a kind of Wild West and continues to call for more robust oversight.
Okay.
And you have Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, both calling for stronger regulations, particularly around stablecoins. But generally, regulators still seem reluctant to extend crypto investors the exact same protections offered in traditional finance. It's an ongoing debate.
But what about enforcement?
Law enforcement authorities are definitely active. They're targeting exchanges, pushing for compliance. Major ones like Coinbase and Gemini, they have to adhere to strict Know Your Customer, KYC,
Right.
and anti-money laundering, AML requirements.
Right.
They're also leveraging the traceability of blockchains.
Right.
Remember, most public blockchains are transparent to track criminal activity, and the Treasury Department has specifically cracked down on things like cryptocurrency mixers, which are services designed to obscure the origins of transactions.
Okay. And internationally? Big differences.
Huge differences. At one extreme, you have China, which implemented a sweeping ban on basically all crypto transactions and mining back in September 2021.
That complete ban.
Pretty much. And several other countries, including Algeria, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Morocco, Nepal, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, they've also either banned or significantly restricted cryptocurrencies. So a real patchwork globally.
Yeah.
And one other big trend related to all this is central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs.
Right. Digital versions of national currencies?
Exactly. Digital cash issued by the central bank. Over 130 countries now, representing more than 98% of the global economy, are exploring CBDCs in some form.
Or any actually live?
Yeah, 11 countries have actually launched them. China's digital yuan is probably the most high profile, though interestingly, it currently represents only about 0.1% of the official currency in circulation there. So early days still.
What are the supposed benefits And the downsides.
Well, the potential benefits include faster, cheaper payments, improved financial inclusion for people without bank accounts, potentially new tools for monetary policy, but the concerns are significant too. Centralization of power, data, and risk within the central bank. Major privacy concerns: could the government track every transaction? And the potential negative impact on commercial banks if people pull deposits to hold CBDCs instead. Lots to consider there.
It really seems like this whole space, DeFi, crypto regulations, CBDCs, it's all interconnected and evolving incredibly fast.
Absolutely.
This deep dive really underlines how 2024 is shaping up to be a truly transformative year for DeFi. It's pushing the boundaries of financial services in ways, like you said, we're only just beginning to fully understand.
Yeah, it's clear this isn't just a fleeting trend or a simple rebound, it's a deeper evolution.
Definitely feels that way.
Precisely. And that innovation process within DeFi, it's set to continue, maybe even accelerate, driven by these ongoing advancements in regulation, yes, but also security, interoperability, and that crucial user experience factor.
Opening up new possibilities.
Entirely new possibilities. Think about more sophisticated financial instruments becoming accessible, decentralized derivatives, insurance products like we touched on, new credit markets, all alongside continually improving user experiences and hopefully significantly reduce transaction costs for everyone.
So, as DeFi matures and, as you mentioned, increasingly intertwines with traditional finance, maybe a final thought for our listeners. Consider how the way you interact with money, how you save, how you invest, maybe even how you borrow, how might that fundamentally shift in the coming years? What opportunities or maybe what challenges might this evolving financial landscape present for your own financial life? Something to think about.